From silent struggles to bold breakthroughs. Welcome to Unspoken Real Talk, where men come to talk, to heal, and to be heard. I'm your host and moderator, Pamela Coleman. Wednesdays at 7 p.m., we dive into the powerful, often unspoken conversations around men's mental health. From silent struggles to bold breakthroughs, this is a safe space where vulnerability is strength and real talk is the rule. With conversation that reflect the journey, the pain, progress, and peace, you'll see you're not alone. So pull up a chair, open your mind, and let's talk. This is Unspoken Real Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in for our second Unspoken Real Talk, where men come to talk about mental health. So today, I have one of my favorite people in the world, one of them. Why? We'll tell you later. But I tell you what, when he tells you why, you're going to be hungry and go to his website and buy cookies. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about the cookies soon. We have a good friend, Mr. Dedrick Brockington, and he is one of our unspoken men. He was the original Unspoken from our I keep getting Unspoken. And in our background, you'll see book 2, and he has been a big supporter of me, the project, and what we're trying to do, getting men to understand and know that it's okay to be okay. Welcome in, my dear friend, and thank you for taking a moment to come in. I know you were a little busy this evening like we all are, but I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, and hello everyone. Thank you for having me. This is quite an honor for me. So, thank you.
So this is, even though you see me, this is for our men of Unspoken. This is where you all come. I'm just the vessel. So this is where you guys will come to chat, to talk. So if you have somebody that you want to bring on with you and talk about some stuff, they're more than welcome. I will just upload and be here for you guys, but this is my Unspoken men's platform where they can come and talk about things that's going on. We'll probably be doing roundtables like we did for the inaugural one, where we have 6 or 7 of the unspoken men chatting and having discussions about mental health. So we have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, after doing the first Unspoken, how did that affect your views on men's mental health?
After the first one, I felt like when I'm you're sitting there and you're reading other men's perspectives and takes on everything, and it either validates or it forces you to look at things in a different way. It either validates what you've already felt and what you know already, or it forces you to gain a different perspective. And for me, it just validated what I already knew and whatnot when it comes to our mental health and everything like that. So in that respect, that's what I got from it. And also it was therapeutic. I found that it was very, very therapeutic in that it gave men an outlet. It gave men a safe space, and that's one of the reasons why I honor you so much and I respect you so much for even taking that step. You know what I'm saying, to uncover what sometimes is swept under a rug. So it's always a good feeling when that happens and stuff like that, and men's feelings and our perspectives of it are acknowledged.
One of the questions that we had last week, which is always a question that I have because I want to know, because it helps the other females that may be looking, or partners, or if you are working with some mental issues, or not mental issues, but you just want to come home and talk. Basically is the question. If you want to come home and talk and you don't have a mate that will listen to you or receive what you want to talk about, how does that affect what you as a male trying to go through your process of mental health and make sure your mental is good, having a mate that's not supportive of what you want to talk about?
Um, well, I mean, first thing I would say though, if you are a man who doesn't have someone to come home to, who will actually listen to what you have to say in its entirety, I would say start journaling. Write it down, get it out of you. Don't internalize it. That's one of the things that really, really causes our health to decline is when we internalize everything like that. So the first thing I would say is just start writing it down. Get a journal, get a book or whatever the case is. And I don't care if you haven't picked up a pen or a pencil to write stuff down in a long time. I would say start journaling because you need to get those thoughts out of your head. You need to put it down on paper. It doesn't have to come out organized or anything like that. These are your thoughts. So get it out of your head. Just don't internalize anything. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the first thing I would say for someone who doesn't have that support system is to choose a different way, because a lot of the time some men, they don't have those random men that they can look up to or go to immediately. So the immediate thing for you to do is pretty much journal it, put it down on paper, get it out of your head, and stuff like that.
If you on the going with the journaling, if you wanted to get not help but talk to somebody,
Mhm.
would you want to talk to somebody that looks like you, or where would your comfort level be? Would you want a male, an African American male, or what would you look for if you were seeking someone that you went to see on a professional level?
Well, first I would consider all of those individuals, those male individuals that I've come across, and who always made the most sense, because skin color does not always mean anything,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Because I know sometimes when in our case as black people, sometimes kinfolk ain't always your skin folk ain't always your kinfolk,
Right.
and those aren't always the safest venues, because if they have similar experiences to you, they really can't give you much insight on anything, because they're going through the same thing and they too probably haven't sorted the things out on their own. So for me, I go to who always made sense, who always had a clear and level head, who always had wisdom. You know what I'm saying? So if that is a white man, an Indian man, whatever,
Hmm.
whoever that person is, that's who I'm going to call and say, hey, I know this is a little random. I probably don't talk to you as much as I should, but can we have a real conversation? Can I be transparent with you about some things that's going on? Do you have some time to kind of hear me out? Because I got to get this out of my head, and I don't trust anybody that much. I don't trust many people, but one person I do trust is you, and I'm sure you're going to tell me the truth. At the end of the day, you're going to be straight with me. So that's the dialogue I would have with a person that I actually trust, or that I actually have observed to be someone who's true to their word, or someone who's always honest, or someone who seems to have a clear head about things. And because I listen to people, I observe, and
Hmm.
so if I see that that person is somebody that I could actually talk to any extent, or I've observed them giving another person advice when there was chaos, they've settled that chaos with just sage advice, or they've always stayed even keeled, not overly emotional or something like that. That's the person I probably would go to.
That I appreciate that because that's a different take on what we had last week with 6 different people,
Hmm.
and that's a fresh look on it. We have some that said that they would feel comfortable, speaking to someone that looked like them. Then we
Hmm.
had one that said similar to what you said, that they
Hmm.
may want somebody who has not walked it in order to give them a different view on it. So it was
Right.
it's a little bit across the board about, how and what they would look for. So it was a little different.
Right.
Have you noticed more people that you talk to talking more about mental health now that, you know, we are all, you know, all 36 of us are now out here having the conversations?
Well, what I've noticed, and sometimes it's just like, when you get a new car, you
Hmm.
don't ever see the car that you just bought. You see it, because you're looking for it, but you don't see it on the streets as much as when you actually buy it, right?
Right.
So that's what I've been picking up on social media, was there's been a whole lot more talk about men's mental health, about prioritizing himself, a man, over always putting the woman first, because and that's what I've been seeing.
Hmm.
That I've been seeing a whole lot more mental health talk, and basically, since I had been bathed in this amazing anthology of yours, um, it's something I've always spoke about, but for someone to really focus on it. And then when all of this stuff started to happen, I started to see more and more and more podcasts, more and more interviews, more and more men speaking out on social platforms about men's mental health. And it's a lot. And I just always hope that women are paying attention to those things and stuff like that. So I've seen a lot of it. I've seen a lot more of it, I should say.
Speaking on that one, just going a left a little bit, is that when we first started this, and I think I told you about this, is that I would get, I almost didn't do it because of the number of women that were in my message going, why are you doing this?
Mm.
And it kind of disturbed me because it was like I would get no less than three a day for almost a year going,
Wow.
why are you doing this? And I'm like,
Wow.
almost second guessing why I was doing it. And then
Mhm.
after working with you guys on the first book, I was like, so when the messages start coming in, I'm going, well, why aren't you doing it?
Right,
You
right,
know, why
right.
aren't you doing it? Because we as women, I would say at least 87%. That's an odd number, but I'm gonna go with it. If something's not right with us or we don't feel right, we're gonna call the doctor, we're gonna call our bestie, we're gonna talk to somebody. As
Mhm.
the men were raised and conditioned that you can handle it. You don't
Mhm.
need you don't need to call nobody, you don't need to talk to nobody.
Mhm.
In short, suck it up. Did you see that when you were growing up? The shoulder it and just keep it moving, bottle inside.
Well, growing up, it was a little different for me because
Mhm.
I had a balance with men and women in my family.
Okay.
I had my grandfather who was our pastor and bishop and all that good stuff. Then I had my uncles. You know what I'm saying? My dad was mostly away on in the army.
Mhm.
However, when he did come to town and stuff like that, he was always open to speak and talk. And my dad was one who he thought differently. He was a think outside the box type of man. So I always resonated with him because that's how I've always been.
Mhm.
However, with me and my upbringing, we were very open people. We were very direct people.
Mhm.
So if there was something I needed to ask, I'm not going to ask my grandma really, because I mean that's not something I was going to do. However, I had uncles. However, I had uncles who were stand-up men and stuff like that. I had that healthy balance. If my aunties, if they wanted to talk or what they wanted me to talk to them, they would say so. And I felt okay to do so. I had certain aunts that I was always open with and I could talk to because they were more like my sisters than they were actually aunties,
Right.
because I was raised right beside them. So I've always had outlets. I've always been mentally stable. I've never been in situations where I was just abused, and everything. All of my dreams and stuff was stifled, and all this stuff. My grandma always told me, whatever you want to do, you can do. Just put God first and go to it. Focus and get to it. So she never shot down my dreams. And I don't care how lofty they were, and they were quite lofty. They still are. But as far as my mental health, I felt good about my particular upbringing. I wouldn't change much. I really wouldn't. Um, so I feel like I was able to digest things way differently from men who weren't always exposed to both equal balance of men and women. So for me, it was a little different than a lot of other people, because a lot of other people have gone through a lot of dysfunction, a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect. You know, they've gone through a whole lot, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I understand that, and there are times I wish that for my sons. As I'm doing this, I slowly start to notice that they both picked up that stigma that we have, that you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to cry, you're supposed to shoulder everything. And as we were
Hmm.
talking, I was rolling that, back into my memory bank again, is that the night that their dad died, neither one of them cried.
Mm, mm,
So, and here I am, I'm on the floor of the kitchen, just bawling, with
mm,
family and stuff sitting on the floor with me. And to not to their fault at all, because their father was the same way.
mm.
So I'm noticing the more I do this with you guys, the more that both of them are a little bit more, especially my oldest is a little bit more easier to say, I'll call and say, hey mom, I need help. But they too were, they were going into that stigma. Because when he
Yeah,
passed, there was, at the funeral, nothing. Not,
wow.
not to say what they could have done, in their own rooms or whatever, but
Mm,
as far as if you had walked up to them and say, hey, I'm sorry, they're, you know, thank you and nothing.
wow.
So, as we were talking about it, I was thinking, I was like, my kids were heading in the direction of what we're trying to let people know it's okay to talk about it. My youngest is just talking about it, and he died
Mm,
in 2017.
wow. Wow.
So for us doing this, it's helping. I'm actually seeing it help them.
Right.
So if it's helping, like we said, if we can reach one person, like we did the seminar when, I was like totally crushed because it wasn't a whole packed house, but we reached people. It might
Right.
not have been in the room, but we got them on the thing. So
Right. Yeah, I think we have to be. I think women have. I saw a podcast, and the young lady was explaining how she was very adamant. My boys, they are straight up young men and stuff like that. And then she said that they were 12 and 10, and the guy and told her, I said, I'm sorry, but you cannot raise boys to be men. You can raise them to be decent human beings,
mhm.
but there are certain aspects of manhood that boys have to be mentored or guided to by men, because there's certain things that will they will not have in them if a man's presence or a man's stamp or imprint on that boy child is there or present. That doesn't mean that they won't grow up to be decent young men. That just simply means that there are certain components that would be missing. The problem is that a lot of the times, like with the women who were in your inbox and stuff like that, and messaging you, the problem is they're so detached from what a man feels, wants, thinks, what's important to him a lot of times. And God bless those of you young ladies who actually is in tune with that, because we need you. I'm not ever going to sit here and say, oh, well, man, we good. No, 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 no. We need that from a woman. That balance is what we need.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we're down on ourselves, we need that encouragement. We need that acknowledgement. We need you to say, hey, I see you. I see the effort that you're making. I see this. I see that. Because just the same way, in the same aspect that women need acknowledgement, of their feelings and what they are seeing or what they perceive or what they assume, the men in a different way, we need that uh, encouragement. We need that acknowledgement. We need those type of things. And a lot of the times when you hammer in to a boy child's head, you're gonna have to man up. You ain't gonna be no punk. You look, I ain't gonna be having no punk.
Right.
First of all, to shed a tear, to cry isn't punk business. That's not punk business. That's human business. And I think a lot of people need to stop that. They need to get out of that because they're handicapping their child mentally and emotionally.
Yes.
Because emotional intelligence is extremely important. You can't get that unless you yourself is emotionally intelligent and you know how to convey that to your children and let them know it's okay to express yourself. It's not okay to be emotionally reckless because that's going to lead you doing things physically that will put you in more trouble. So these things are a domino effect type of thing. And I think people need to really, really understand that.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I understand that there are single moms out there, and kudos to those because I became one.
Right.
You know, 2017. Even though they were, everybody had graduated, but they were still developing. You know, still trying to find their way. And I think they're basketball coaches and their football
Yes.
coaches
Yeah.
because they were like, and they still like, you know, my brother to me, but they stepped in and said, hey, if you need me, call me. You know, it's like you say, you need somebody because they got things they want to talk about, which I'll do my best to listen to, but maybe I won't tell them the things that they need.
Right.
You know, little personal stuff like that. I wasn't. I was a scared one. No, let me hold on. Let me get somebody. So I get it, but it's just like how, you know, it's just like when I'm working in a school now, and you see the young men who don't, you know, moms are doing the best they can with what they got. And you see them just, you know, they the hardest things walking, they ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. And the first one you see turn the corner, boo-hooing. What's wrong with you? You know, but if their homies come around the corner while they talk, ain't nothing wrong. I'm good. So you like, we try to pair them with male teachers and stuff so they can help them, but it's just like, ooh, it's something
Well,
else.
the thing with young men or men in general, we have a hard time trusting, right? So that person will have had to show that child or that young man that they're trustworthy. That's why I said earlier, you know, I observe a lot. I pay attention a lot. And the thing is, I remember one deacon told me one time, he says, if you shut your mouth, open your eyes and your ears, you will learn a lot. You know, he said, if you talk half as much as you talk and listen doubly more than you do now, you'll be able to gain a whole lot of insight on life and people. He said, because running your mouth because you're emotional about things don't solve a thing. And that's something I didn't really get when he actually had that conversation with me. And I don't know why he had that conversation with me, but I was young and I didn't get it at that time because, I mean, I wasn't dealing with anything deep. But when I went to college, that's when a whole lot of stuff just started making sense. And I noticed all of the behavior patterns, all of the things that people would say, things that people would do. And it all made sense. I was like, wow, this is what he was talking about, you know?
Yeah, it's like,
and
later it's like, oh, the light bulb. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just really like when you was talking about the coaches and stuff like that, I'm glad that they extended that olive branch. But with boys, they have to see that that person is trustworthy enough to be transparent with. You know what I'm saying? Because these days in this social media era, almost nobody is trustworthy. And everything is subject to you being exposed or something like that. So people have a tendency not to trust anybody. And their walls are so high, even the best of people can't get to them That's male or female. You know what I'm saying? So we just live in a time where trustworthiness is not as accessible as we once thought it would be.
It's like what you were saying is that all it takes is one person
Hmm.
to, you've got your wall up and you're like, oh, I'm gonna trust that person. And then as soon as you
Hmm.
trust that person and they betray your trust, it's hard
Hmm.
for anybody else to
Hmm.
come through and be supportive, or you know to hang it, just to help you, or just to listen. You might not need help. You might just had a bad day and you want to hit the button while you're driving and you want to vent. And the biggest thing for me, which we talked about, was if I said, hey Dedrick, I want to talk about it, and you go, I'm gone.
Right,
I'm
right,
done.
right,
I can't.
right.
And it might not have been that, it could have just been a deep breath at the wrong time, but I won't talk to you. I'd be like, oh, I'm good. And then I'll just shut down. So I've
Hmm.
seen that in some of the men that I talked to. And one was saying that the only reason why they did this book with the female is because I didn't look like I was trying to expose, like you were saying.
No.
I didn't want to
Mm.
expose. That wasn't what we were doing. It was our seminar in a book.
Right.
So, I didn't turn anybody away. I wanted you guys to speak, because it was earlier this year. I got a message saying that he was going to the word that you're not supposed to say, and then he ran across something. Somebody had posted a book. Somebody was talking about the book or whatever, and he went in and got the book, and he started seeking help. So
Wow. Wow.
I was like, okay, so we stopped something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they let us know. So I was like, okay, what we got that one, you
Yeah.
know.
Right. Right. And that was a very important one too. That was
Oh
a very important one.
yeah, that was I've gotten a couple, but that was the one that was the closest to,
Yeah.
that side of it. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I
Because
just think about the many times I was gonna say I'm not gonna do it. And what I really love about, and I call you my unspokens. My guys are asking for the next one, and I'm going, dudes, dudes. So, but the one I'm working on now is like a 2-part one,
hmm
is the men that are in prison
hmm
and are coming out, or they've been in prison and they're out. They're telling their stories on how being in jail affected their mental health.
right. Right.
And to pair with that, which I got some of them coming in now, is the moms that watch their son go to jail. How did that affect them? And they're telling their story of their son being taken away from, in the courtroom. I had one lady, I couldn't read it. I had to just like stop for a minute, because I'm like, I couldn't imagine being in a courtroom and
Yeah.
wanting to take my son away for the rest of his life.
Right. Right.
She said that she'd rather have him in jail for the rest of his life than the other option that was on the table for him. And I'm like, I can't. But I wasn't going to do this. And believe it or not, it was TikTok. There was a TikTok that I was watching, and the mom had filmed and explained what had happened to her son, and she was
Mhm.
sharing. And from that, it just like, Pam, reach out. And from there, it's just been going. So
Okay.
I don't, like I said, my unspoken men, they want another one. We'll do what we can do. Kareem is ready to do another cover. As you guys can see, that's Kareem's work right there. He is an unspoken brother, but he's ready. He's like, what cover do we need next? And I'm like, but it's been special for me. It's been emotional. This last one was really emotional because we have a brother in here talking about the death of his daughter,
Wow.
and she
Wow.
was 30 days old.
Oh. Wow.
So
Wow.
when I was reading that, and I was just like, And he talked about it. And this is why we do what we do. He said he was on the floor. There were days he didn't want to get up. He didn't want to exist. And somehow, he tells you how he got to where he is now, why he can talk about it, why he can share with other people who've gone through this. He's speaking on it. So
Right.
again, we're doing something. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, but we're doing something.
And let me tell you, sometimes I remember my son, he was close to that point. And his one of the things that he told me, he said he just doesn't see him having a purpose. He don't know why he's here. He don't know why we had him or brought him to this world, all this other stuff.
Hmm.
He was really in a very low place. And I explained to him, I said, do you not understand that there are people in their 50s, 60s just discovering what their real purpose was? You think you're going to discover it at 15, 16 years old? I
Hmm.
said, listen, some people discover it early. I said, no two people are the same. I said, we love you. I said, son, you were the best thing that had ever happened in my life. I said, so for you to sit there and say, well, I don't want to be here, like you're taking my heart away.
Hmm.
You understand? You're taking me with you. I said, so I need you to understand something. Whether you have figured it out now or not, you are important. You are loved. You are someone who has a distinct reason to be here. Now, I don't know what that is. I can't tell you what that is. Only thing I can tell you is that as life goes through, you will figure it out because things will happen that you didn't plan for. Things people will be placed in your life that you didn't ever see coming in your life. There's
Hmm.
going to be times that you affect someone's life in such a way that seriously puts the world in focus for you
Hmm.
because you're like, I never knew that I would have this effect on someone. So in your case, that's what's going on. Because see, you may not know what the next step to this evolution is, but it is an evolution nonetheless. And you have literally saved someone's life. You have literally given someone another outlet and a possibility to help somebody else they don't even know. You know what I'm saying? So for me,
Hmm.
that's the reason why I'm so thankful and grateful for you to even take this step because you a lot of the times women don't care enough to even listen. Some women don't care enough to even listen long enough because those little cues, those or that little eye roll, even if
Hmm.
they don't do the shoulder shrug, that tells us you're not interested in nothing that is important to us. That tells us, you know what? I don't have a safe place. And what I was about to say was that men don't typically give anybody, much less women, we don't give a woman a second chance to hurt us. Because a lot of the times we will shut it off, we will cut it off, we will fall back. And then when we lock that part of us down,
Hmm.
you don't get that back because
No.
you have to prove without a shadow of a doubt some kind of way that you deserve us being transparent with you because you can say, well, he don't open up, why don't you open up, why don't you talk to me, why don't I? Well, he actually has tried. This is the reason why you're not getting much from him because he's actually tried before. And the fact that you haven't seen that, that is a very, very telling sign that you're not listening. You're not acknowledging his feelings, and the way he feels, or not even giving him a safe space to let those things go and land in a safe place. Because a lot of the times you have some, not say a lot of the time, but sometimes you have some women who will tell their girlfriends what he told her, or she'll tell one of her relatives what he told her. That's nobody else's business. So once a man figures out that you're not a safe space, there's some things that he will lock up and you will never get that side of him again.
Right.
And he will seem like he's detached and all this other stuff. Do you really think a man wants to be detached from the woman that he loves? No. He wants her to literally be his best friend, his locker, his safe space. Outside of his best man friend, I'm talking about the person that he shares certain aspects of life. His guy friend don't even know.
Right.
You
And
know what
they
I'm
don't
saying?
need
So
to know. Hmm.
right. Right. And so we have women especially have to be very careful with that, because if we see that you're that woman that above and beyond anything else in the world, that I can trust you with my most personal shortcomings, my most personal feelings, my doubts about myself, my health issues, my whatever. If he sees that he can trust a woman with all of that, that man will move heaven and earth to do anything for that woman. Absolutely anything. And a lot of the times that's where healing comes from. Healing comes from a safe space. You know what I'm saying? And so if he doesn't have that safe space, that man can never heal unless he seeks it out professionally. And even then, that only goes for so far, you know?
Yeah, because that's on your what, once a week or twice a week visit, but you still got to come home to the
Absolutely.
person that
Hmm.
you at least Yonder said, I want to come home. There might not be anything wrong. I just want to sit there and just talk without you saying one word. Hear me, let me finish, and let's talk.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then
Hmm.
there are some, like you said, there are some women that don't understand that, and it's nothing wrong with that. We're not knocking the women. Let me put that disclaimer out there. It's just that some women, like what we're talking about, are just conditioned to go, okay, you be all right, you got this, and we need. That's not going to be on our plate, but that needs to change. You
Yeah.
know, that
Hmm.
needs to change. It might have to join at some point if we hear our men say, this is what I'm dealing with as far as the mate side of it. We might have to pair that in. We might have to pull that in and say, hey, ladies, and I'm not singing, but I'm just saying, we gotta, you know, this is what we're hearing. We got 40 men that are saying, this is what I need. If you got
Hmm.
40 men saying, then you got more men saying it
Absolutely.
that they did,
Absolutely.
and what damage is it doing to the relationship?
Hmm.
If he can't come home and talk,
Hmm.
and it doesn't cost anything,
Hmm.
he just wants the support.
Yeah. And all it costs is time. And a lot of the times, some women are, and like she said, we're not bashing women or anything like that in general. We're talking about those specific women that this type of behavior applies to. And my thing is that if you're one of these women who have a hard time being accountable, this is for you. I'm sorry, but we got to be direct. I can't. I'm not gonna walk on eggshells for women who don't take responsibility for anything. There's a reason why your man is behaving a certain way. It's not just because men are gonna be men. No, that's
Right.
not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how that works. There, men in general respond to the stimulus that is presented to them. So if he comes to you with a thing, and it can be a small thing, and you mishandle that, if you fumble the ball, guess what? He's not coming to you with another thing again. Some men, they'll give you a second chance to see if that was just a one-off. He'll give you a second chance and he'll try again, because ultimately he really wants you to get it. But if he sees that you're not getting it and he has that conversation with you and you push back, the worst thing you can do as a woman is to dismiss what a man is trying to tell you, deflect it, and try to make it something else about something else. And
Mm-hmm.
then you make yourself out to be the victim. And then you make it about you, everything about you, you. First of all, you've just dismissed everything this man tried to come to you and say. And if that man is making an effort to come to you, and then subsequently certain things happen in the future, and you guys end up not being together, I've seen women literally says, "Well, me, I," but you never once hear that woman say, "Well, he did do this," or he did like she's not acknowledging anything that he came to her and literally said. And sometimes you'll see the guy on the other side of the court rolling his eyes like, wow. So she didn't hear a word I just said.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? So and the thing is, That man was crystal clear about what he said, and she didn't take it seriously. She didn't take anything seriously. She just swept it up under the table as if he's just speaking nonsense. First of all, the way a man processes emotions is not the same as how a woman processes emotions.
Right.
We process things vastly differently. So I'm just curious as to those individuals that say men and women are equal. We're not. We handle things differently. We do things differently. We think differently on so many different ways. But I will say that the similarity is we have to acknowledge each other's emotions, feelings, and different things like that within reason. Because if you're just out there and you just crazy, you just want everything your way. First of all, we acknowledge that that's what you want, but that we're not going to sit there and go along with it because we know that's not a right thing to do. But when we're doing wrong, we expect to be called out on it, and you should. You
Mhm.
should do that. If we're processing something that is going to be detrimental to ourselves, you should address it. We're not saying don't address bad behavior or bad mentalities or something. We're not saying that. All I'm saying is that we have to be held accountable for the things that we do that is wrong and detrimental, and also the things that we do right.
Right.
Always acknowledge those things, because if we're doing something right, we want to know you see us doing it right. And those little small moments motivate men. When you say, you know what, I see you, I see that you're doing this, that, and the third. We most of the time we're not going to say nothing to you. We know that you know that we're doing something, or we're trying to do this and that and the third. If you even acknowledge that we're trying, we'll try harder. If you have acknowledged that you see the changes that we're making, listen, a man will go harder in the paint to make sure that look that you just had on your face of
Mhm.
approval, and that you're happy to see it. Yo, we want more of that. You know what I'm saying? Your happiness is like a drug to us. For us men who got some sense, it's like a drug to us. We want you to be happy and prideful about the things that we do and
Mhm.
accomplish, or if we needed to change something that you came to us with, and we're changing that, we need you to be happy with the changes that we are making, so we know that you see it, right?
Right.
But let's just think of this other opposite side of it. If we are never appreciated, if we are never given a compliment, if we are never acknowledged for the things that we are doing,
Mhm.
how do you think that adversely affects men? Do you think that's going to motivate him to do better or do more? Sometimes it doesn't, because all he's going to say is, well, shoot, I tried. It don't matter one way or the other, so why should I try?
For me, on that same note, it
Mhm.
doesn't take much to tell. It doesn't even have to be your mate, but let's say
Mhm.
it's a male coworker, without it going across the line, going, hey, like you said, I saw you, hey, you did a great job on that project today, just and
Yep.
I try to make sure, and it's not in the calendar or anything, but whenever it hits me, I just send a note, say, hey, just want to let you know you appreciate it, you're doing a good job, not even doing a good job to make them sound like a puppy or something, but just hey, you appreciate it. You
Mhm.
might not have heard this today, but I appreciate you.
It
it
matters.
it doesn't take much.
Nope.
It doesn't take much. And when, like you said, when you see something that's not right, ladies, um choose your words carefully. And again, we're not bashing, we're just sharing. um
Mhm.
you don't have to come and go, Leroy, I said that. No, you can just say, hey, I noticed that this, or when, or that, just talk to him with some respect. But the
Mhm.
pointing and the neck curling and the direct statement that you did something wrong might not have been something wrong. It could have been a simple error
Mhm.
that, maybe you forgot that one of the bolts in the thing, and it fell on the floor, and you thought you put them all in there. So you couldn't have done that wrong if you didn't see it.
Yep.
You
And
just
I,
can't. come sideways at our men. It's just
And I'm glad you said that, because some of these ladies have to understand that we're not your child. You understand? We're not your child. You do not own us. I don't care if you're a husband and wife. Here's the thing. Respect is everything to men. Respect translates to love for men. We ain't about the words and all that stuff, but respect, genuine respect. You can get your point across without being a butthole. You can
mhm,
get your point across without being rude or disrespectful.
mhm.
And a lot of times I've seen women think that being disrespectful means that they control the situation. Ladies, y'all have so much power y'all don't even understand. The softest reassurance, the softest redirection can put a man in where he is supposed to be, and you
Mhm.
don't even know it. And it takes very, like you said, it doesn't take much effort. And when we look around, we see all this dysfunction in relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic type relationships. I'm talking about business. I'm talking about every aspect. It's because someone did not understand how to speak to another person. They don't know how to talk to a person. So when I at one of my former jobs, that was the case.
Mhm.
Nobody on the staff felt respected. But when I came along, every now and again, I'll drop a nugget. Because if somebody says, well, this person, they did such an excellent job doing da 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 da. And not only would I tell them in private, I would tell them in front of the whole crew,
Yeah.
hey, such and such, they had a very great, they had a really, really good compliment today that they did blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at the faces in the room, and people have this smile on their faces and stuff like that. And it's not because it did anything for them, but the fact that she was complimented is you like, you know what? I might let me see what extra effort I want to make. And if they see that I see them, and I hear them complaining about how much work they're doing and how much things are being packed on them, and I go to them and say, listen, you're doing an excellent job. I know, and I acknowledge, hey, I know there's a lot of work that's being done, and I see that you're doing it the best you can. I really, really appreciate you. I really do. Do you not understand that that person hadn't heard that most of the time that they were there? You know what I'm saying?
We
So
don't
it can
hear
be
it at all.
right,
It's not, yeah,
right,
it's not at all.
right. So in our real lives, we have to understand that we generally don't get thanks. We generally don't get acknowledgement. We generally don't get appreciation shown for the small things or some of the things that we did that we didn't even have to do. Sometimes we just need to hear it. We don't really want anything material, but sometimes the things material, sometimes we just need to hear it because it gives us that extra that we need. You know
And
what I'm
it's just
saying?
two words. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I the same thing you were talking about. I was somewhere working with some people, and I said thank you, and she said what? I said yeah, it's something that's real rare now, but people, I was raised to say thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate you helping me. You didn't have to, and she was like, I was speaking a foreign language, and I'm like,
Right, right, right.
what did I do? But, she said, and she walked away and she turned back and she said, thank you. I was like, you're welcome. But
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
Nope.
People don't even say thank you when they hold a door for people now. They just
Hmm.
walk through it. And I want to be
Yeah.
like that guy and pull you back and then shut the door and then keep on walking unless you open the door yourself.
That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what it was. I did. I we got there and she went on her little high horse, her feminism high horse, and I could do this, man. I said,
Mhm.
you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. When she went into those double doors, I wasn't on the other side. I left
Yeah.
because I'm just like, if this is how you are at the beginning of our dating process, it only gets worse.
Exactly.
This is not a competition. I'm not trying to take anything from you. This is what I am doing to show my respect for you as a woman. So if you can't even recognize a decent man, yeah, you don't deserve this one. So I'm gonna go home. And that's what I did. I went straight on home. And I'm just like, some people that don't get it. I was watching a TV show, and the guy at the end, he was the way he processed things was being overly sexual. He would get himself in situations and just, and not have regard for how it affected the female in his life or the women in his life. And he would just do stuff. And he literally broke down when it got to the nitty gritty. They really had him break down why he did the things that he did when he had a perfectly good woman. And he said, you know, this is not an excuse for what I've done. And and he sincerely apologized to her. And he said, it's out of my system. I'm not doing this again, because when I did it, it didn't make me feel any better. It didn't make me feel, if it's something that I thought I wanted or thought I needed to do.
Right.
He said, but after I did it, I felt empty, and I felt the betrayal that I brought on her. And I felt the hurt that I brought on her. And I just can't do it anymore. He said, because that's all I knew. He said, I didn't have men. I've been abused as a young man. I didn't have, proper male role models or mentorship. He said, and I just did things because it was what I wanted. It wasn't about anybody else's. It was about me. And so when I did things, I didn't factor in how it would affect another person.
Right.
And when I saw her face, she said, he said, it tore me apart to see how hurt she was. He said, I don't want to do that anymore. He said, I sincerely don't want to. I know the ladies over here, they're not going to believe what I'm saying, but I'm serious. I've put things in such a perspective to where now it makes sense. Now I see it now. So sometimes men go through certain things. If men do things based off of the value level that was taught to them or that they didn't see when they were younger. And that's not an excuse. It's only an explanation. Remember, there's a difference. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. It's just an explanation from him as to why he did what he did. And it was good that he came to the realization what that means, because some people really don't. Some people never come to the realization until they're so deep in some mess that they can't even get out of it, and they've ruined somebody's life or damaged another person. And it's too late at that point because they've already done the damage. But some people never come to that realization. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, but like you said, is sometimes it's so hard that they can't, like you said, they go too far and they can't come back.
Yeah.
And
I thought she was gonna walk away.
Yeah. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's scary too. It's, you get not comfortable, but you get in the situation where you want to, be helpful, but you're not helpful, and it's just.
Well, now let me speak on the helpful part real quick.
Okay, you got it.
There is a way that you can be helpful without being helpful, or no, you can be helpful without enabling them. Because a lot of the times when people are being helpful, they are actually enabling that person to stay in their way. And the thing is that you do that sometimes by getting out of the way. Like you let them crash and burn. Because if you're too busy being their umbrella, they don't know how it feels when it rains. They have to face certain consequences sometimes. You have to get out of the way. And for me, I call it falling back, because when I fall back, I fall back. And when I fall back, I'm gonna watch you crash and burn. If I know that's going to be for your best interest. because obviously what I've been trying to tell you isn't working. So if you're not going to listen to what I'm telling you, and you're going to treat me as if I'm trying to take something away from you, I'm going to let you crash and burn. And then maybe you'll see what I was saying all this time. Because sometimes when a lot of you ladies are empaths. That means you feel everything. You don't want anybody to be in pain. You don't want anybody to cry. When you see a dandelion, you cry when somebody blow the dandelion. So 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 what I'm saying is that even though, and you're not a bad person for not being available when this person keeps putting themselves in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing as a friend, what you're doing as a person who cares, is allowing them to feel the pain that they should feel, because I've been your cushion all this time. Now I can't be your cushion because you're hurting me. You're damaging me, because in the midst of me being your cushion, who's going to be mine? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the hardest thing to do is, like you said, to fall back for your own health,
Right,
and your own
right.
mental stability is to fall back
Hmm.
because you love that person or you care about that person and you
Hmm.
wanted that person to be the person to support you, and now you've got to, in addition to look after yourself, find a way to walk away.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just adding to your mental.
Right, right,
That's
right. Who's going to replenish you after you've replenished everybody else? I hate when women say, "I'm a strong woman." Well, that's out of survival. You ain't got no choice but to be strong when nobody else is there for you. That's not a flex. So
Mm-mm.
stop saying it as if it's a flex. It's not a flex when you got to be strong all the time, or somebody always looking to you to be the strong one, or looking to you to be the better person. First of all, you need some acknowledgement. You need some rest. You need to be able to exhale sometimes. You need to be able to have an outlet. You need to be able to have a shoulder to lean on. So if you're always there for somebody else and then nobody's ever there for you, that drains you. It exhausts you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with individuals who have issues and stuff like that, you have to be very careful. You're not so empathetic to the point to where you drain your own life force. You drain your own self and energy and stuff like that. Because now you're looking around like, when I'm going through this, but
Where
there's
you at?
nobody around. Right.
Yeah. Where
You
you
know,
at?
so we have to be very, very careful with that, because especially when it comes to, because we're talking about mental health and stuff like that. But if you're with a person who does not have the capacity to fuel you
Mm-hmm.
internally, everything ain't about sex. I need people to understand that. If you are with a person who does not see the value in you as a person, you got a promotion at work, but they don't ever tell you congratulations. Or if they say they're happy for you, you don't even see it in their body language or their energy. If you've accomplished something, or you've gotten a degree, they look at you as a threat, or they get intimidated by the fact that you got a higher degree or you make more money. First of all, I'm happy for you that you make more money. I'm happy. I'm excited for you to have gotten that degree. I'm excited for the things that you're accomplishing. You're featured on this, you're featured on that. I see you on a billboard. Listen, I'm cutting cartwheels. I'm look, I'm your biggest cheerleader. And that's that. There's no gray areas to that, right? That's how I operate. But then you got those individuals who are hating secretly, quietly.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to be very, very conscious of the people around you and their behavior. Be very, very conscious of that, because people can smile in your face and wish you harm. People
Oh,
can say, "I pray for you," but you better be careful what prayers that they're praying, because
mm-hmm.
they could be praying prayers that you fail. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be very, very conscious of what people consciously do consistently, because it's not something that they can fake but for so long. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we have to be very conscious of the energies that we surround ourselves with.
The other thing is, and before I let you tell us about, the tasty things, is if you don't support the vision, you got a vision and you know what the vision is, you need to support the vision. Well, not need to, but if the support is there, and even though, like you said, one may be doing better than the other, that other one's going to come along if you're supporting them, if you're supporting the mental, if you're listening to them, if you're seeing what they're going towards, and you're working in that same direction. Even doesn't matter who's doing what, if the support's there, like you said, I see you, I see what you're doing, I see what you're bringing to the table, I appreciate you.
Right.
It doesn't require much to say that you appreciate somebody. It's a lot easier to say how much you appreciate them and what they do, versus looking at what's not being done.
Right.
Leave that alone. Leave what's not being done, or what you're not getting, or what's not there alone, and look at what you are getting.
Agreed.
Don't. But anyway, look, so before we leave, we have got to know a little backstory about some tasty morsels. You gotta tell them about the little tasty boy. I see you reaching in the back.
Yeah, I'm reaching in the back. I'm reaching in the back.
Okay.
So what you want to know? What you want to know?
Tell the people who or how one got the name the Cookie Man.
Well, when I was 5 years old, no, I was playing. So, but to give you my 30-second commercial, right before I went to college, my grandma gave me her chocolate chip cookie recipe. That chocolate chip cookie recipe evolved into 54 different flavors of cookies and bars, and 28 customers, 28 states in which I have customers, and stuff like that. That has evolved from 1995 to now to customers in 28 states, 54 flavors, and counting, because I'm always adding. My newest additions are my oatmeal cream pie. Like Little Debbie.
I remember
my key lime pie, my key lime cookie, my orange sherbet cookie, my almond raspberry cookie. This is my almond raspberry cookie, right? So it evolved a whole lot. This is my stuffed snickerdoodle here in the DMV. Yes, here in the DMV, the snickerdoodle is king. So I have my classic snickerdoodles, I have that stuffed snickerdoodles, and I have a sweet potato snickerdoodle. I have a banana pudding cookie. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I have a banana pudding cookie.
Okay.
I have a red velvet cookie. Yes, indeed. I showed you. That's red velvet. And this is the one that started it all. This is my classic chocolate chip cookie. And whatnot.
On that one, y'all. That cookie is Lord Jesus.
Yes, ma'am. So that's what's going on now. And very, very, very soon, speaking this into existence, I will have my own cookie truck. I have a food truck dedicated to cookies and bars. And that's going to be coming soon. And I'm working on that being a thing within the next 12 months. So be looking out for that. Also, lastly, I will have a subscription service to where you can get your cookies delivered to you every month. You can change the flavors. You can change all of that. You can do all of that, and that way you can go through the whole menu if you want to, and everything. So give me just a second.
AC1 numbers go up.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I do have vegan, I do have diabetic friendly, and I do have gluten free options as well. So if you have limited health, dietary restrictions and stuff like that, I can accommodate those type of things. And that way, you can also have a great time doing all the things that you're doing, and you don't have to sacrifice because you have a dietary restriction, right? So you have the vegan side of things, you have the diabetic friendly side of things, and you can take advantage of it, right? So yeah, if you watching your A1C, that's good because I'm watching mine too. So all you have to do is order, hey, I want some vegan such and such. Now everything ain't gonna be vegan. I gotta make sure you know this. But if you specify what you want, and I can tell you whether or not I can make that vegan or not. In most cases, I can. Okay.
Oh, okay. All
Yes,
right.
indeed.
It's 8
Also,
o'clock now. It'll be 10
okay.
o'clock before I get there. So I don't know. Just put the cookies out on the porch.
I not the porch. Oh Lord.
Porch delivery. I'll come pick them up.
That's right. And I forgot. The last thing is the way to get these things to you is go to Instagram. Check me out on Instagram. Follow me, and when I see that you follow me, I will send you a full menu of my my taste sensations. Okay. Also, you can find me at on TikTok at the Mr. Craves. That's the TheMrCraves. Okay.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is once when this one we end our conversation, which
Hmm.
it's hard to do. This is streaming directly into our YouTube channel,
All
which
right,
we have a
Carissa.
YouTube channel. And I'll put all your information in there so
Just
they
pull up
can just
here.
go straight to it.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got you hooked up. We got you covered.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, so I want to thank you
Sugar
for
free.
coming in and
Let me go get
talking
the
about the
sugar free.
cookies. I know we were talking about more important things, but the cookies is my favorite. I got to talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I appreciate you for being not only in the first book, but the second one in Pending Future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm gonna keep on moving. I just put my books to the side, and I'll get to them when I get to them.
Oh Lord.
I'll get to
All
them when
right.
I get to them. But thank you again, and you have a good rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Have a good one.
You do the same.
Thanks.